everyone, and thank you so much for being with us on this very last edition of Mentoring Mental Health and Public Health with Tolu Omadara here on Amogate Radio Communications. It's such a joy, such a delight, such a pleasure, such a privilege to welcome you to this last edition, this wrap-up edition. It's been a joyous, delightful, interesting, insightful ride. And as we wrap up today, we just want you to know that we are grateful for you. We are grateful to you. You are the reason we do this. Every week that we've come on, every month of the quarter, we've been doing this because of you. We are glad that you've joined us. We're glad that you stayed with us. And if you're just joining us for the first time, you're still welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And we are so glad to have you with us. My name is Tolu Omadara, and we'll be back shortly. Mentoring mental health and public health. What has this been about? And what is our strongest takeaway? This has been about helping us to see the connection between mentoring and mental health and what impact it can have on the overall health of the public. It has been about helping us to see empirically, several insights, several research endeavors, several activities that have helped to establish the fact that mentoring does help to improve mental health and that mentors can be trained as paraprofessionals, mental health paraprofessionals that can help to lighten the burden on the mental health professionals, the full professionals, right? It has helped to show the link from country to country, from Italy to UK to Japan to the US. We've shown data set after data set from episode to episode, helping us to make the connection and to see the connection that has already been made between mentoring and mental health, and to see the immense potentials that are yet to be untapped as we use mentoring to improve the quality of the public's mental health. This has been the thrust of the program over the last quarter, and we are very glad to have been able to do this with you, and we are glad to be wrapping up even today because we will be moving on to something else that is still connected and that is still important, especially when it comes to the policy level changes that we've been desiring. One of the things we've kept saying every time we brought the data to you, one of the things we kept saying is that we need to have more national mentoring models. We need to have more national mentoring policies. We need to have, for instance, more policies and processes that would enable mentors to be trained as mental health professionals, right? Let me just give you some of the data. Of course, we've had several rich episodes and we can't go over every single thing that has been said episode to episode, but let me just share some of the things that we've learned in the course of this program just to give us a sense of why this has been very important to us. For instance, a recent study found that over 20% of high school students reported decline in their mental health due to the pandemic. I'll repeat that. A recent study found that over 25%, right, that's 1 in 4, or more than 1 in 4, over 25% of high school students reported declines in their mental health due to the pandemic. Now, before the pandemic in the United States, for instance, America's youth were already struggling with their mental health even before the pandemic. For instance, a very worrying trend was already seen, right? The suicide rate for youth aged 10 to 24 had actually increased by 60% between 2007 and 2018. I'll repeat that. The suicide rate of youth between age 20 and 24 had increased by 60% between the year 2007 and 2018. So as bad as this was already, when the pandemic happened, it only grew worse, right? Now, that's the quote-unquote the bad side. Thankfully, mentoring offered some hope, right? For instance, again, higher research showing us the connection between mentoring and mental health had already indicated that mentoring can be some form of support. For example, there was a 2016 evidence review by the National Mentoring Resource Center, which concluded that mentoring programs specifically designed for young people with mental health challenges have demonstrated meaningful positive impact on mental health symptoms. I'll say that again. A 2016 evidence review by the National Mentoring Resource Center concluded that mentoring programs specifically designed for young people with mental health challenges have demonstrated meaningful positive impact on mental health symptoms. So there was already evidence that mentoring programs was positively impacting mental health in young people. So as bad as the data may seem, like when we hear things like 60%, there was a 60% increase in suicide rates of young people aged 10 to 24, that looks like the bad news. And if you're not careful, we think that's the only side of the story. Thankfully, on the other hand, mentoring had actually been seen to show a positive trend, a reversal, so to say, or potential for reversal, let's put it that way, right? The data was already indicating, for instance, that specialized mentoring support in which mentors are trained to support evidence-based interventions can yield strong results. So mentors, for instance, can be specifically trained, specifically trained to support the mental health of young people. Now, thankfully, again, you might be wondering if you're listening to, what happens to older people? There was also evidence of things like reverse mentoring. So, for instance, even the people who were mentoring these young people, the evidence also showed that they themselves had their mental health improved in the course of mentoring. So those who mentored others found out that they themselves were growing. Right now, we also looked at, like I said, we've gone from Italy to Canada to Germany to Japan. We've looked at data from different places. A Canadian study, for instance, showed that mentored youths reported significantly fewer behavioral problems than young people who were not mentored. They reported significantly fewer behavioral problems, and they also had fewer symptoms of depression. I think there was a whole episode we devoted to the issue of mentoring and depression, and we shared data after data set that demonstrated that there was a significant increase in the mental health, a significant improvement in mental health of young people, especially with respect to depression, who were being mentored. So when mentors work together with full mental health professionals as paraprofessionals, as mental health paraprofessionals, the impact is significant, is notable, and there is evidence to support this. These were some of the things that we shared episode after episode on this program to make a case for why nations need to invest more and more in national mentoring models, specifically those that can cooperate with mental health professionals, full mental health professionals, but we will now have the mentors collaborating with them to enhance and to expand the work of the mental health full professionals, and the mentors would be there to support and enhance it, as the evidence already shows the possibility for. This is still Tolu Omadara here on Amber Gate Radio Communications. It's been a joy, like I said, it's been a delight, it's been a journey, it's been a very insightful journey, sharing with us episode after episode the impact of mentoring on mental health, and we have made a case for why nations need to invest more and more in this, because there is so much gain that are yet to be explored. We've had experiments, but there is need to have full-scale intervention. I'll say that again. We've had a lot of experiments, we've had a lot of data, we've had some attempts to adapt and adopt, but we still need to have full-scale mentoring as a mental health intervention in many nations. There's a lot more that needs to be done than has been done, and that was one of the things we strongly canvassed for on this program. My name remains Tolu Omadara, and it's a joy to have you with us. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. This is still Mentoring Mental Health and Public Health. We are doing the very last episode of the program on this first Tuesday, October 3rd of 2023. We started this program in July 2023, about the middle of July 2023, and we are wrapping up after a full quarter of looking into mentoring mental health and public health. So we went to Italy, for instance. We took a journey to Italy, and we saw that there was a study in Italy that showed that community-based mentoring, school and community-based mentoring that was done over a period of 8 months actually showed that young people who were mentored had their hyperactivity and inattention problems reduced significantly compared to the young ones who were not mentored. So they had two sets of young people. They had those who were mentored, and then they had those who were not mentored. They used those who were not mentored as a comparison, and the study showed that the young people who were mentored over an 8-month period had their hyperactivity and inattention problems reduced significantly. This was in Italy. We've talked about Canada, we've talked about the United States. Now this was in Italy, right? Another thing that they found out, the researchers found out that when you have highly trained paraprofessional mentors who are deliberately, intentionally, purposefully trained to be mental health paraprofessionals, when you have such people in elementary schools, not just youth now, not just high schools or the colleges, even at the elementary school level, they found that the participating young people who were working under the mentors who were specifically trained to act as mental health paraprofessionals, they found that the young people working with such trained mentors actually showed improvement in their behavioral, social, emotional, and learning problems. Let me break that down. So you had mentors who were trained specifically to be mentoring to be mental health paraprofessionals, beg your pardon. Mentors who were specifically trained, highly trained, not just trained, but highly trained, given an intentional, purposeful, and intense training to work as mental health paraprofessionals. When such mentors were put together with young people in the elementary schools, right, to support the full mental health professionals, they found that the young people entrusted to such mentors actually showed improvement in their behavioral, social, emotional, and learning problems compared to a control group of young people who had similar mental health issues but were not paired with mental health paraprofessionals, mentoring mental health paraprofessionals. So what the data has shown, and we've shared this week after week, is that when we have mentors who are given robust mental health training, right, and we involve their parents and caregivers, and we ensure that this mentoring is offered consistently. That's one of the things we saw, that the mentoring that is more effective is one that is given consistently over a certain period. When we have such mentor training, effective, robust, intense mentor training, and we also have a significant amount of time invested in the mentoring relationship, what we found is that the young people who go through or who are paired up with such mentors who have been well trained and they are left to their care for a significant amount of time, actually have a reduction in their mental health issues from both a preventive and a curative perspective, because they have been entrusted to well-trained mentors who are acting as mental health professionals. I hope that you're enjoying as much as we have enjoyed it all quarter long. We've enjoyed this program a lot, right? And this issue of consistency is something we also want to drive home as we wrap up today. It's important to have a source of stability in the lives of young people, some of whom are having issues even with their parents and parental figures. I'll say that again. It's important to have a sense of stability in the lives of young people, some of whom are having issues with their parents and parental figures. In other words, some of these young people probably have absent fathers or absent mothers or absent parents completely, right? And when they have a mentor that is there, and remember what we said about consistency, that is there with them over a long period of time, right? That mentor sometimes becomes the source of stability, becomes, what that child or that young person needs to feel like they have a sense of stability, which they lack in the absence of one parent or both parents, right? So it's really, really important to make sure that, mentors are well trained. And sometimes part of what we need to train mentors on, the research has shown that, is the ability to also evolve as the young people evolve. The mentor to somebody over a 10-year period, sometimes the person he or she was at 10 years old or at 12 years old or at 15 years old is not who she is at 20 or 22 or 25. So one of the things that we saw, the research showed that mentors need to be trained on is how to evolve as well, how to adapt their mentoring approach and so on as the young people are evolving, because their needs are also evolving. Like I said, there's so much that was covered in the quarter. We cannot capture every single thing, but these are some of the highlights that we think are important for us to take away as we wrap up the program today. My name is Tolu Omadara, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you for being with us. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Tolu Omadara, here on the very last edition of Mentoring Mental Health and Public Health. It's been a great ride. It's been a great journey. We're just bringing some of the highlights of the things we have shared so far, and we're also emphasizing some of the takeaways we want you to go with as we wrap up on the program. Now, another thing we saw, which I think is important to emphasize, of course, mentoring programs were found to boost academic and mental health outcome. Some of the researches showed that as we improve the mental health state of these young people, of course, their academic outcomes also improve. But that's not even what I want to emphasize now. I also want to emphasize this, the fact that mentoring works beyond youth. It was not, I think we had a program we dedicated to that, lest we think, it's just about young people. No, even in the workplace, what we also saw, part of the research also showed that the World Health Organization, WHO, estimated that there's a global cost of about $1 trillion, not B, TRILLION, a global cost of about $1 trillion per year in lost productivity as a result of depression and anxiety. Now, thankfully, mentoring is one of those methods that has been proven to reduce anxiety, particularly around the worker's ability. So it's not just about young people, right? We saw I think there was an episode we dedicated to the UK police for a UK police force initiative where they introduced mentoring and they tried to measure the impact of mentoring on both the mentored and the mentees. And they saw that both ways it actually helped to reduce anxiety. So a whole $1 trillion is at risk because of depression and anxiety. But like I said earlier, that's just the bad news, right? There is the good news. Don't think there is only the bad news. There's also the good news. We shared that episode after episode. Mentoring was actually found to be one of those methods that has been proven to reduce anxiety, particularly around the worker's ability. So we showed how feelings of worthlessness, for instance, are dealt with in the place of mentoring. A mentoring relationship can help to boost the worker's sense of dignity, a worker's sense of self-worth, and as these mentors work on the self-confidence of the workers, it actually leads to increased productivity. So it does not just reduce the level of anxiety, it also increases their self-confidence. People who are mentored feel listened to, and then as they feel listened to, those feelings of worthlessness begin to diminish and dissipate. So mentoring relationships are not just for young people, they are also for workers. It showed a lot of benefits. We showed a lot of benefit from episode to episode in how mentoring can help to improve employee engagement and retention. It even becomes a source of attraction point. It helps to recruit talent. When organizations have strong mentoring programs, it helps them to recruit talent. Mentoring is also a channel for knowledge sharing. It's a very effective and low-cost way of ensuring that skills are transferred. So it's something that enhances a positive company culture. It shows that there is inclusiveness when you have mentoring, and it helps to build that sense of warmth and acceptance. It helps people feel warmly accepted, and like we already said, this has a very strong impact on their productivity. Extremely important. Again, just like with the young people, it's also important to train those who volunteer to be mentors at workplace, right? And we talked about mentoring being about relationships. We emphasize that a lot. Mentoring is about relationships. as much as possible, we don't want to force mentors or mentees. We want to create, especially in the workplace, we want to create an environment where people can naturally connect, and we allow those who tend to connect, to flow into their mentoring relationship. In other words, it's good to have formal mentoring guidelines, but it's also important to allow some mentoring relationships to naturally emerge. Extremely important. So we talk about formal and informal mentoring relationships, and the truth is that the data indicated that the informal relationships actually tend to last longer, and then that does not mean that we don't have that the formal mentoring relationships are not good. Formal mentoring relationships are better than no mentoring relationships. But the data actually indicated that the informal mentoring relationships, that is the relationships that emerge, relationships where the mentors and the proteges connect by themselves, were often found out to be much, or to be better. Let me not say much, but found out to be better than the formal mentoring relationships that were sort of forced or that were sort of mandated. So we also emphasize that as much as possible, we want to create an environment where those relationships emerge of themselves, right? Because there's been found to be a lot of benefits on that. Wow. I could go on and on and on. There was so much that was captured. There was so much that was covered. There were so many insights that were shared. I think I'm going to wrap it up here. It's been a journey. It's been very interesting. And I want us to know as we wrap up that we are going on to something new. We are going on to a new program titled The Making of a Transformational Leader. And I was alluding to part of why we think this is important, especially when it comes to changes that we are advocating for. It's one thing to advocate for those changes, like advocate for national mentoring models, advocate for trainings, advocate for mentor training, and so on and so forth. It's another thing to actually build the capacity to implement these initiatives, and that's what the Making of a Transformational Leader is all about. These initiatives are not going to implement themselves. As a matter of fact, they're not even going to articulate themselves, right? The ability to envision, the ability to articulate, the ability to execute, the ability to follow through, those are very powerful constituents of transformational leadership. And these are things we need to go into. The more we looked at mentorship and mental health, we got feedback from some of our listeners. Some of our listeners actually, for instance, wanted to know what are some of the causes of mental health issues. And when we look, sometimes those things are domestic, sometimes they are professional, sometimes it's from the home, the family institution not standing as it should, right? Sometimes it's also from the workplace, excessive pressure, and people don't have the capacity to deal with this excessive pressure. Sometimes it's a combination of both, and in response to some of our listeners that asked those questions, one thing I want us to know is that domestic violence is also something that we also want to watch out for sometimes. And domestic violence is not just physical, it's verbal, it's emotional, it's mental. People also face all kinds of assaults and onslaughts on their mental health at the home front. Like we said, a lot of this has been seen to be, a lot of the mental health issues spring from home or from work, or a combination of home and work. If the home is strong, it's easier for people to actually deal with whatever pressure is coming from outside. But when the home front is not intact, then people will become even more barraged from whatever it is that is coming from outside. But one thing stands clear: if we have strong leadership, we can counter some of those things. Even if somebody is coming from a home front that is already assaulted or assaulting, if we have strong leadership at the workplace can become some kind of a haven. If we have visionary leadership in schools, the schools can become an oasis, right? And so one of the reasons why we are looking at leadership, we are veering from this into leadership, is because a lot of the things we have been talking about are going to require effective leadership to envision, to articulate, to implement, to enlist others in, and to follow through on. And those are the things we'll be delving deep into. We want to start talking execution. We don't believe in just speaking. We believe in doing a lot at Amogate. We believe in bridging the strategy performance gap. We believe in bridging the policy practice gap. We envision, we articulate, but we also like to contribute to ensuring that things get done, things get implemented, because well done, like we say in Amogate, is far better than well said. And so for us, it's important to begin to equip our listeners with the leadership competencies required to enable them to articulate, to envision, to articulate, to implement, and to follow through on these things. Some people who have listened to us have already been asking questions. What can we do? How can we do? How do we collaborate? Who do we need? And those are the things that we are going to delve into in the leadership program. How do you envision? How do you articulate? How do you collaborate? How do you execute? How do you follow through? How do you even reinvent initiatives, right? Because we now have to begin to make those changes at different levels, policy levels, process levels, practice levels. It's time to begin to implement certain things than to begin to, and to begin to push forward, to push boundaries, to test boundaries, to challenge norms, all so that we can say at the end of the day that we have done something with the things we have heard. I think almost every episode of this program, I will close by saying, please do something about the mental health of those around you. Please do something about mentoring initiatives. I would say, those of us who are in a position to influence policy, let's do. Those of us who are in a position to influence processes, let's do. Those of us who are in a position to impact practices, let's do. At whatever level you may have an influence, do something, right? So now we are going to go deeper into that new program, like I said, the Making of a Transformational Leader, that will help each of us think about how we can transform our spheres of influence, our spheres of authority, because it's time to transform. We need to transform our nations, we need to transform our institutions, we need to transform our organizations. We need to do something about what we have heard, and it's time to think about how can we equip us with the skills, how can we equip us with the competencies, behavioral, technical, leadership competencies that we require to go and do something with the things we have heard. This is what we are passionate about in Applegate. Bridging the strategy performance gap has always been, an ideal to which we continually aspire, not just for ourselves, but for our clients, enabling our clients to bridge strategy performance gap, or the policy practice gap is something that we are so passionate about, that we keep on moving on it. We never get there in a sense. It's something that we continually aspire to. We're always thinking about how do we help our clients to strategize, to articulate their strategy, and how do we help them to implement. At the end of the day, that's all it boils down to. You articulate, you implement, you reinvent. If you have done it well, you reinvent again. And these are some of the things that we will be going deep into in that new program called the Making of a Transformational Leader. Well, like I said, it's been such a journey. It's been such an exciting journey. It's been so nice. It's been so wonderful. It's been so, endearing having you with us episode after episode, week after week, month after month, in the quarter. And as we come to the very last edition, we just want to thank you so much. Remember, we always appreciate your feedback. You can send us feedback. We're on LinkedIn, Amogate. We're on Facebook, Amogate. We're on Instagram, Amogate. You can send us a mail on contact@theamogate.org. We look forward to hearing from you. We value your feedback. You are the reason we do this. We are so grateful to have had you with us. We are so grateful to have, had the privilege of your faith in us. I can't thank you enough for your faith that we've had so much encouraging feedback from different people. I want to mention specifically Dr. Ajayi, who is a psychiatrist in the UK, and so many other people. And as we wrap up today, we just want to say thank you. We truly appreciate you, and we look forward to having you on the next program, The Making of a Transformational Leader, which will begin on Tuesday, October 17, 2023. Until then, take very good care of yourselves. Look out for your mental health. Look out for the mental health of those around you, and try to advocate for more mentoring to help full professionals, so that we can continue to boost the mental health of everyone at school, at work, at home, in our community organizations, and so on and so forth, using mentoring and mentors as paraprofessionals. Until we see you on the new program, take good care of yourselves, and we say thanks and God bless. Have a good one, and take care of yourselves.